We're live. Here we go. All right. Welcome back to all. Gemora, page 19b2. Gemora Makkos. Please join us on the right-hand side. The first paragraph. Here we go. Let's read the article's introduction. The Gemara has explained that the first Mishnah, which lists Meiser Sheni, that has not been redeemed. Okay, we're talking about Meiser Sheni, that they're eating the actual Meiser Sheni itself, the fruit of our tithe that we take to Yerushalayim to be eaten in Jerusalem. That's the Meiser Sheni. And the terminology in the Mishnah means it has not been redeemed. And we explain that to mean refers to unredeemed Meiser Sheni that is eaten in Yerushalayim in a state of Tumah. So when the Mishnah says that he ate unredeemed Meiser Sheni, that means he ate the fruit themselves. It wasn't redeemed, it wasn't paid off, it wasn't sold, it wasn't exchanged for anything. He took the fruit themselves. So what was wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong with eating unredeemed? What's wrong with eating unredeemed Meiser Sheni? You're supposed to eat unredeemed Meiser Sheni. You're supposed to take the fruit and eat the fruit. So what was wrong? What was wrong was that he was Tameh. He was impure. And if you're impure, you can't eat the Meiser Sheni because the Meiser Sheni is considered holy. Even though the owner himself gets to eat it, it's still considered holy, kodesh. You got to be holy. You got to be pure in order to be able to eat it. This implication is that it was not redeemed. That's the issue. It wasn't redeemed, but it can be redeemed, even though it has already been brought to Yerushalayim. Okay. The Gemara now says, how do we know that you're allowed to redeem fruit once we had this discussion? Once they enter in Yerushalayim, remember we spoke about if they enter Yerushalayim and then you leave Yerushalayim and you come, right? At what point are you stuck with the fruit that you have? And you can no longer redeem them. Our Mishnah seems to imply that even in Yerushalayim, you can redeem, even in Yerushalayim, you can redeem fruit. That's what it seems like, because we're calling it unredeemed fruit. Unredeemed fruit means you've got the option to redeem it. But now you're already in Jerusalem, you're already in Yerushalayim with your fruit. Can you now, in Yerushalayim, redeem the fruit? Or are we saying that once you enter into Yerushalayim, it's now locked in? You've got to eat of this fruit, and you can't exchange it for other food in Yerushalayim. Understand the question? So it seems like it's subject to redemption. And the question is, how do we know? Thank you. How do we know that you can redeem it? Let's read footnote 14. You'll see he'll explain more of the question. Meiser Sheni that is tohor, pure, cannot be redeemed in Yerushalayim. In other words, you can't necessarily redeem it in Yerushalayim. The verse which allows for redemption of Meiser Sheni, the verse says like this: because the place of Yerushalayim is far from you. What's the motivation to redeem? The motivation to redeem is because Yerushalayim is far from you, meaning you're far away. How are you going to step all your fruit across Yerushalayim? You can't step it all around. So if you can't step it all around, what are you going to do? You have to redeem it. So the verse seems to imply it's because of distance, implying that redemption is not possible in Yerushalayim. The Gemara therefore inquires after a source for the rule. Then when it is Tameh, it may be redeemed even in Yerushalayim. Who told you you can redeem it in Yerushalayim? That's the question. We'll leave the brackets for now. Okay. So in other words, it seems like we have a rule. The rule in the verse says that when you're too far away and there's no way of you being able to step your fruit along to Yerushalayim, what are you going to do? You have to redeem it. You're gonna no other choice, right? But if you're in Yerushalayim already, so you're already there, now to go ahead and redeem it, how does that work? Where's the source that's going to allow you to redeem your Meiser Sheni even once you're in Yerushalayim? Okay, so it says Gemara, the Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says, Minayin l'maisa sheni shenitma. So we have a clear statement. Minayin l'maisa sheni shenitma. Shepoidin oisay afilu b'Yerushalayim. How do we know that when Maisa Sheni has become Tomei, you may redeem it even in Yerushalayim? Interesting. Here it says Tomei. Seems like it's another variable. Was a Maisa Sheni Tomei or Tahor? Okay, so where do you know that if it's Tomei, if it's impure, you can redeem it? Tamalomar, because it says Kiloi Suchal. We learned this idea last week. It says you may redeem Maisa Sheni because you're unable, and the terminology is se'esoi, which means to carry. The word se'esoi means literally to carry. So because you're unable to carry it up to Yerushalayim, therefore you redeem it. Says the Gemara, I can interpret the word se'esoi to mean slightly differently. Ve'ein se'es ela achila. What does se'es actually mean? Se'es means eating. So when the verse says you can't eat, you can't se'esoi, how do you translate se'esoi? We translate se'esoi to mean you can't carry it because it's too heavy to carry, too inconvenient to carry. But you can also translate it to mean you can't eat it. Why can't you eat it? Because the fruit is tameh. You can't eat it because the fruit is tameh. How did the fruit get tameh? We discussed this last week. How did the fruit get tameh? Exactly. Or in the presence of someone. In the presence of someone who's dead, or touched by someone who's tamei, right? So if fruit got tamei, you can just imagine. I mean, you're traveling all this distance. You may spend the night, God forbid, when someone dies, or someone who's tamei may have touched the fruit. So as a result, what does se'esoi mean? You can't eat it. You can't eat it. You can redeem it because the verse says if you can't se'eto, if you can't carry it, or you can't eat it, you may redeem it. From here we have a proof that when fruit is tamei, you can redeem, even in Yerushalayim.
This is always something you know that's tamei. Because you might sleep in a place where there's no way, or somebody owns a way because tamei is touched.
Exactly. You are sensitive to the fact that this fruit is tamei and you've got a problem. Because we said you can't eat Maisa Sheni. That's tamei. Right?
If you know you're going to do something,
you'll still eat it. Absolutely. If you don't know, you'll still eat it. Ignorance is bliss. In today's day, it's very hard to be ignorant. Information's out there. Somehow you're going to know that the fruit was tamei. But I guess in the old days, he had no information. Yeah, it could be. You won't know. Which does, by the way, shows us something. That if the fruit is tahor and in Yerushalayim, then you can't redeem it. I think that's what the first line of footnote 14 is saying. Maisa Sheni that is tahor cannot be redeemed in Yerushalayim. Once you're there, you're there. Once you're there, the fruit must be eaten. Because you've got no issue of carrying because you're already there. You have no issue of eating because it's tahor. So you must then eat of it. You can't then redeem it at that point in time. Once the distance is not an issue, or carrying is not an issue, and eating is not an issue because the fruit is tahor, then you can't redeem it. You have to eat that fruit. Yeah, so many apples, right? I don't like so many. Why must I eat so many apples? Maybe I can eat another type of fruit. But no, the apples came to Yerushalayim. You brought it here. It's tahor. You're able to eat them. You got to eat them, which is quite a big obligation. I mean, a farmer must eat all this fruit. I would imagine his family can help him. I wonder how far and wide he can stretch the invitation.
No.
Can he give it? No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He had the choice to redeem it. You can switch it off if it's hot. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's fine.
If it's too much to carry, I could have
you could have, yeah, exactly. Had he thought through this, he could have redeemed it before he started traveling. and then spent the money in Yerushalayim. But now he had brought it all the way up. The issue is, the food becomes Kaddish. It's now holy. You can't just get rid of it or exchange it. You're expected to actually use it.
But won't it get rotten when it travels? Depends on
How long the distance is.
No.
But that's why it's in place. That's exactly the reason it's in place. He can't carry it. He's not going to keep it fresh. Why are you doing it? Also, I wonder how far. I don't know if anyone else can eat of it. I would imagine his family can, because that's considered like himself. It's like Kohanim. Kohanim can divide the produce with their family, even with an Eved. An Eved, a non-Jewish Eved, that's hired by the Kohen, can eat of the Kohen's Truma. Right? Even a non-Jew can eat of Truma. A regular Yisrael can't eat the Truma. But an Eved, a non-Jewish Eved, can eat Truma while you're in the house of the Kohen, because you're part of his extension, you're part of his possessions. So I would imagine a family can, but beyond the family, you're already, it's the responsibility of the family to eat the produce.
But there's not left over, so you eat it when you can't eat it.
Well, that's the problem. I would imagine you're going to let it rot.
make it into jam.
You can't sell.
You keep it for yourself.
For yourself, yeah. But you have to eat it there, so it's a bit difficult. And let's say you assume you're a farmer out in who knows where, not so simple.
It's like where was it?
It's a percentage of, right? 10% of your produce. You're saying it's still a lot. Yeah, sure. I would imagine if you plan correctly, again, I don't know if there's a deadline by when you have to finish eating. If you plan correctly, we did say that the declaration was, I got rid of everything I owe. Biarti HaKodesh min habayis. So the pace, I think it was the Pesach of the 2 years, of the third and sixth year. Third and sixth year, you're going to announce that I've cleared my whole household of all the fruits that I owed. I was about to say, if you plan correctly, maybe you can spread out the spend. So on this visit, we'll do this amount of money, and this visit we'll do this amount of money. Especially if you're traveling to Yerushalayim every 3 pilgrimage, huh?
Yeah, 3.
Every 3 years.
Huh? 3 times a year.
It's 3 times a year. If you're traveling it's a lot of money. Travel costs and feeding your family is very expensive. So imagine you take the money of Ma'aser Sheni. You say every time we go to Yerushalayim, you're going to spend another $100 on food for Yerushalayim. Exactly. You need the money. You need that savings to help you go through. Yeah. don't spend on the credit card. Yeah. Okay. So that ends that piece. I do think we touched upon this piece last week. All right. So the last line shows you. Remember this. How do we know that the word se'eso means to eat? And he served them portions as he had set before him. And this was talking about Binyamin and Yosef. That was the discussion we had, where Joseph prepared meals for his brothers. And the word there is masos, the same word, se'esoi, masos, means portions of food. And here we see the word se'esoi means to eat. Okay. Bottom of the column. Omra Bibi, Omra Basi, over the page. 19b3. Minayin l'masa sheni tohar. How do we know the ma'aser sheni that's pure, still holy? Shepoidin oisoi, that we redeem it. Afilo b'psia achas chutz lachoima. Even if it's 1 foot out of the wall of Yerushalayim, you're literally almost there. Right? We're 1 foot out of the wall of Yerushalayim. You can still redeem it. If you look at the footnote 18, he emphasizes the question. He says, even though the Torah says, because the place is far from you, that's the excuse why you're redeeming, because the place is far from you, which would seem to limit redemption to places that are distant from Yerushalayim. This person is 1 foot out of Yerushalayim. How does that work? Yeah. So how do we know that even if you're 1 foot out of Yerushalayim, you can redeem? Shnema, as it says, "Kuloi suchal se'esoi," because you are unable to carry it. In other words, it's got nothing to do with distance. If the carrying is difficult for you, and as long as you have to still carry, even though it's 1 foot away from Yerushalayim, nonetheless, you don't have to carry it. You can redeem it there and then, if the carrying is difficult. So even though it's 1 step away, but the mere fact you have to carry it that 1 step, you've now got the excuse. I guess because you can't differentiate. A policy is a policy. The rule is a rule. If it's about how difficult carrying is, then how can I start differentiating between someone who's carrying 10 kilometers, someone who's carrying 1 step away? If the rule is a rule, you got to draw the line somewhere. So if you're not in the city yet, and you're finding it difficult to carry it, no matter what the distance may be, the rule is a rule, and therefore you should be able to redeem it because you haven't come in yet. There's always going to be in every rule you make. There's going to be
What do they do with it?
anyone can eat it. Anyone can eat it after that.
If the guys come and take on stuff, then the last step, it sounds like there's too much.
That's right.
There's still one.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, there and then he can then redeem it, right, or sell it. Redeem it or sell it. Either he pays the money in. I would imagine that what's the point of redeeming means? Redeeming means I'll eat it, but not in Yerushalayim necessarily. I'll eat, right? I'll eat the fruit, but now I have the money. With the money, I'm going to buy fruit in Yerushalayim. So redeeming means I'm going to eat it back at home, and the money that I've redeemed it with, I'm going to use in Yerushalayim to buy fruit. That's what redeeming means. Selling means that somebody else is going to use it for their own interests, and I'll have their money. Once I have their money, I can go buy myself fruit.
So also then, I use a hobby model. You didn't have to have 100 kilos of it. Say 100 kilos is too much. You carry it for 50 or half of it.
Sure, you could do that, and then use the money of the half to buy for fruit. But so let's just paint the scenario now. This guy is 1 step away from Yerushalayim. I don't see how he would now benefit from this. I would imagine he's going to give it away or sell it, because what's he going to do? What's he going to do now? Step away from Yerushalayim, not carry it in with him. Okay, so who's he leaving it for? Yeah. It would be the same din. Yeah, same rule. Either you've got the option. You've got the option of redeeming yourself, the option of selling it.
So I mean, we're talking fruit here. So then the whole fruit is holy.
Yeah.
So then the skins and the puffs and whatever, we get it on.
No, so you're right. So you're right. So I'll tell you like this. When one of the laws of Shemitah, right, is what we call heter mechira.
Yeah.
Heter mechira. Again, I don't understand the full legalities of the law. It's a loophole to be able to eat of the produce of Israel.
It's a leniency by selling.
If you sell it to somebody else,
you sell the land.
that's right, the land, and the Jew works the land.
Yeah.
You sell the land, and the Jew works the land. According to some, there's difference of opinion. I mentioned in Shul on Friday night on Shabbos Day how complicated Shemitah is in Israel. Because some say you can't touch the land at all. And then they buy fruits from Arabs. Over Israel, by these Israelis, restaurants and all buy fruits from Arabs, because how else are you supposed to provide fruit to Israel over Shemitah? That's one approach. The other approach is heter mechira, which I'm almost sure means you sell the produce to a non-Jew, but the Jew you
sell the land.
The land to a non-Jew. So now the land is owned by a non-Jew, but the Jew works the field. That's the deal. He works the field and sells the produce. And so to speak, he's working for the landlord. It's called heter mechira. But even that, if I'm not mistaken, the heter again, the intricacies and the details I'm not so sure of, but it's only that which you eat. Whatever's left over is supposed to be treated with respect, maybe even holiness, and buried. So I remember as a child, we would gather the peels and pips together and not throw it out as is, but rather put it into a bag. If you leave it in a bag and then you throw it out, it's okay because it rots within itself. Or if you're even better still, you put it into your grass and you throw it outside. You know where else we ask for it? The same applies to esrogim on Sukkot during the Shemitah year. So many esrogim, Morocco ones and Italian ones have no problem because they come from Morocco and Italy. But if you're buying Israeli ones, which are many of them, right? What do? So you're not eating of it, and you're not allowed to eat of it. You can have the esrog to make a bracha on and use it, but you're supposed to treat it with respect and have it buried appropriately. And so what a lot of the esrogim sellers do is that they actually ask for the esrogim to come back to them so that they can, I don't know what they do with them exactly, if they bury them, so that they can treat them differently to how the average person would treat them. The average person will let it rot and I don't know, throw it out or eat it. Maybe the bigger issue is the average person would make liqueur or jam or something. What they do is they send out notices, you can't actually eat of their esrogim in such a year because using Shemitah year. So now, so why I mention that? Again, the details of that I'm not so sure about when it comes to Shemitah year, while we have, how that works with the fruit of the year. What Hilton's suggesting is, if you're eating in Yerushalayim, it's also Kodesh. If you're eating in Yerushalayim and you got pips and peels of your fruit, right, and the fruit is Kodesh, because that's what Ma'aser Sheni is. It's hekdesh, as we call it, holy fruit. What are you supposed to do? I would imagine you're supposed to gather it all together and bury it, rather than just chucking it away. Out of respect, you eat what you can and you bury the rest. That would be the appropriate. Okay, so let's go on. Left hand side. Second paragraph. Hi niboyle. You can't use the word se'esoi. We just quoted the word se'esoi because you're unable to carry it. So you may be one step away from the wall, and because you're unable to carry it, it is what it is, right? So Gemora says, "Hi mi I actually need that word. You can't use it. You can't use that word. You can't use that verse for one step away. I need it. What do I need it for? To teach me that Ma'aser Sheni there is Tomei and cannot be eaten because it's Tomei, like we just learned. Right? We said if you can't eat it because it's impure, you're allowed to redeem it. So in other words, I'm using the word se'esoi already to teach me that if it's in Yerushalayim and it's impure and you can't eat of it, you're allowed to redeem it. That's what I learned from the word se'esoi. Remember, we got a rule and a policy. You can't learn two laws out of one word. Why? Because how do you know that Torah taught you that word? It's for a minute, for a maximum, one lesson. One din, one law can be learned out of each word. Because how do you know that Moshe intended two dinim, or God intended two dinim? The reason why he wrote that word was to teach me a law, minimum or maximum one law. You can't then add on multiple. That's the rule. You can't add on multiple laws to the one word, because how do you know God intended to do so? God intended to teach you one halacha, one law from that word as a minimum. You don't know about more. So the question is, the word se'esoi is already being used. I learned the word se'esoi to mean that if it's in Jerusalem and it's impure and you can't eat of it because se'esoi means to eat, therefore you can redeem. Right? I can't use it for now. I can't use it for this, which is describing a person who's 1 foot away from the wall, and because he can't carry it in, he's got a problem. Says Gemara, I've got an answer for you. The Gemara answers Imkain. If so, if this is the answer that I can't learn it from that word se'esoi, lema kra lo suchal lo ochloi. If the verse is telling me that I couldn't eat it, then let it say I couldn't eat it. If that's what it's teaching me, that the fruit is impure, and I can't eat of that fruit, let it say clearly la'achloi. La'achloi means to eat it. Kilo sucha la'achloi. I can't eat it. My se'esoi, why use such an interesting word? Why do you choose that word? I understand se'esoi means to eat, but why choose that odd word se'esoi to eat? It must mean to carry it in addition to. So we do have a proof now. You can learn two words out of the two laws out of this verse. One law you learn is that you can't eat it. But for that, it would have been enough to say la'achloi. Why do you say it's se'esoi, to carry it? To teach you a second law. What's the second law? If you can't carry it, even though you're 1 foot away, you can redeem it.
Only in breaking on.
About one law coming out of one word, and unless you prove a reason why I should learn two rules.
Okay, so unless you can find a reasonable exception.
Exactly, right. So this is the reason, because I should have said a different word. The fact that the Torah changed that word was in order to teach you two laws. So right, so the rule is one halacha from each word, unless you have a reason to be able to learn two halachas from here. And our reason is that the terminology changed. If it was just around eating, it would have said la'achloi, to eat. But the fact that he uses the word se'esai, that's the justification to be able to learn two laws from here. Okay. But now the question is, why must I consider eating at all? Who said eating is part of the equation? If it says se'esoi, and se'esoi means, this is like another extreme now. If se'esoi means to carry, and the whole worry is, can you carry or can't you carry? Maybe that should be the whole center point. Can you carry into the city or can't you carry into the city? Whoever said that se'esoi means to eat? Back to the original question. Teach me one halacha, not two halachas. So if se'esoi means an issue in carrying, that I can't carry the fruit, that's the main halacha. Right? Whoever told you that you can introduce a new halacha called eating? If you can't eat it, you better redeem it. Where did you get that from? In Cain, I'll show you. Inside the verse. In Cain, leima kro lo sucha litloi. It should have used a terminology, not se'esoi means to carry, but litloi to take it. Lo sucha litloi, you are unable to take it. That's the correct terminology. You're unable to take it. My se'esoi, what does it mean, se'esoi? That's again a change in terminology. Answer is shma mina tarte. So now I prove two. Because if it was just to carry, to say litloi, I can't take it, the fact that you change it to se'esoi means you're indicating to eat as well. If it's to eat, then say la'achloi, which means to eat. Why did you say se'esoi? To teach you about carrying. So you got justification of both sides why this one word se'esoi actually teaches us two laws. Law number one is that if you can't carry it because you're outside of the city, you're exempt, you can redeem. And law number two is if you can't eat it, even while you're in the city because it's tamei, it's impure, you can't eat it, you can also exchange it. So you understand from both ways, we've got a justification of why you should be able to learn two laws from this one verse of se'esoi. Oh, it's a very strange footnote. Look at footnote 22. Very interesting. And then actually footnote 23 will clarify your question, Evan. The Gemara does not actually mean that the Torah should have used the word litloi. Take it. Since this word is not commonly used in biblical Hebrew. Rather, it means the Torah should have used another Hebrew word, such as the kachtoi, to take it. It's a very strange footnote. The Gemara says litloi. And the footnote by the commentaries is saying, no, it meant, it should have said the kachtoi. It's all synonyms with each other. But it's interesting, if the Gemara says litloi, why would they change it to the kachtoi? And the second thing is, look at footnote 23, which will answer Evan's point. How do we know to learn two halachas from here? How do we know? He says, for the fact that the Torah used the word se'esai, which can mean both to eat it and to carry it, rather than an expression that specifically mentions one or the other, we derive both a law that contaminates Ma'aser Sheni may be redeemed in Jerusalem, and that uncontaminated Ma'aser Sheni may be redeemed even just outside Yerushalayim. Okay, so the fact that we use the word se'esai, which can indicate either way, both eating and carrying, we're able to learn the two laws from him. Okay, that brings us to the end of the discussion about Ma'aser Sheni. Okay, let's see the next question. Says the Gemara, Yasiv Rav Chanina, Rav Hoshaya, become a Bayalahu. The two sages, Rav Chanina and Rav Hoshaya, were sitting down, and they asked the question: Apischa Yerushalayim. It's sitting literally at the entrance of Jerusalem. And they asked the question: Pshita hu b'chutz. This is getting really Talmudic, these sort of questions. Like very technical. Pshita hu b'chutz, or detailed. If he's outside the walls, Yerushalayim, but his meiser, his fruit, is now inside Yerushalayim. Now, how does it work? How does it work in running races? In running races, as long as your body's in, you're in. Your nose is in, you're in. The chest or your nose? Chest. Huh? Not your head. Hand? Oh, upper body. Nose. They don't always use their noses to get in. Oh, upper body. Interesting. Now, but how does it work with cycling? Front wheel. Right? Front wheel. That's the question we're asking here. He's outside, but his belongings are inside. That means his bike tire is inside, but his body is outside the line. That's what it means.
Split second.
But yeah. What? Yeah. Exactly. So he's outside and his cart is inside. This is very technical because, like, is this really going to happen? But that's what the Gemara does. It discusses hypothetical cases. Yes, exactly. Where was he picking the fruits from? Was he inside or outside while the tree was going? Very good. Yeah. We had another scenario a few months ago about a tree that was growing from the Are Miklat, the cities of refuge, and the fruit that he was taking from the trees. Well, because the trunk is growing. Yeah. So his load is inside. So what are we saying? The Gemara says it's obvious that the fruit is already captured by the walls of Yerushalayim. Your fruit's in. Kulatuhu mechitzos. The walls of Yerushalayim have already encompassed it, already captured it. That's it. You can no longer now redeem the fruits. And he says, as they're tahar, because again, if they were impure and you can't eat, then we agree you can redeem. Or assume, I understand it's tahar. The fruits are pure. If they're pure, you can't redeem because they're already in Yerushalayim. You can eat it. The other way around, what happens if he's inside? Or masoi b'chutz, this gets more complicated because his fruit is outside, but he's already inside. He's walking like this. So now he's carrying like this, right? He's holding the two.
Suitcase.
You pull the suitcase along with you. Okay. Okay, so then the Gemara says, Mahu, what's the law in that case? He's in, but his fruits are not in. Now it gets more comedy or interesting, because if you think about the verse, what's the issue? The issue is it's too heavy for him. The fruits are too heavy for him, but he's already in. So now the fruits are they heavy or they're not heavy? Are they technically need to be carried, but he's already in. Okay. So Tanalahu Saba. B'devei Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. It says that those scholarly aged Saba, the scholarly aged rabbis, Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Hoshaya, two sages, said the following in the name of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Yirchak mimcha hamakol. If the place is too far from you, mimcha hamakol. Mimiluacha. The word mimcha can be read or translated as mimiluacha, which means from your fullness, from your extended hands, which means a load you're carrying. If either the person or the Ma'aser Sheni that is loaded on him has already entered Yerushalayim, the city is no longer distant from his fullness. And the Ma'aser Sheni may no longer be redeemed. Mimiluacha. Footnote 25. Look at footnote 25. The word mimcha, from you, is repeated in the verse and is thus superfluous. The Bryce understands it as a teaching. You should not think that if the place is distant from only part of you, i.e. the load you are carrying is outside, that you may now redeem the Ma'aser Sheni. Rather, you may do so only when the place is distant from all of yourself. I.e., if your body as well as your load of Ma'aser is distant, then you have a reason to redeem. The place has to be the place has to be distant from your fullness, from everything around you, from you, belongings, your fruit. That's how distant the place is. Not if it's half and you're in, your fruit is out. That's not really considered being outside. And therefore, in such a case, you will not be able to redeem it, even though the fruit is not in. Nonetheless, you don't redeem it. Yeah.
If he gets the door in, now he's touching it. Now,
no, but the Tomei fruit will be redeemable whether they're in or outside. Both.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But how do you know whether it is or not? I mean, it's all hypothetical.
So yeah. And
It really doesn't make a difference in pulling or pushing. Your intent was to take the fruits in.
So you're saying go via intent.
No, it's just you were going in with your fruits. That's why you're taking it in.
I don't know if your intent is going to change things here. The issue is your ability to carry. I'm not sure if the fact that you intended to take it in.
But you're still carrying it at the moment. You set foot in the city walls. You're pulling a cart. Your fruit is on the way.
That's what I was going to say. When it comes to racing, we don't judge it this way. We judge it as the truth is that's the answer. The answer is we don't judge it either. Because you're halfway in, that's it. You're halfway in.
And it's exceptional.
And therefore it's entered already, you can't change it. That's what we're saying. If you can't change it. So in other words, it's like the cycling example. If your bike tire is in, you're in. So we're saying, yeah. If you're half in, your fruit may be outside, but you're half in, that's considered in because you're not distant enough. It's almost the same entity in a way. It has to be distant from you. And you means everything about you, everything you own, everything you're traveling with. The moment it's not distant from your cart or from you, then it's not distant from your cart either.
Analysis with a 21st. It's not like a uniform kind of analysis.
We had those two scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Your fruit went. Hey?
But then he says that, from your fullness, that seems like the practical halakha is that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
In the end, that's what we've concluded.
Both scenarios will be the same. That's what we're concluding. That both scenarios will be the same because it hasn't been distance from you as a whole. It's only been distance from partially you. That's not considered enough of a distance to allow for redeeming. So it seems like.
What happens? You and your neighbor, he's kind of my speed wagon. And I said, no, it's not from my wagon. He's on his way. For some reason, he got delayed to do waiting.
Yeah. Good example. But now your fruit is further away. Very, very good. Very good. So somebody else is traveling. You've gone in, and your fruit hasn't come in yet. And then the question is, just continue that scenario. Your fruit become impure. Let's say someone touched it or died in the proximity of the fruit. Then now you have a problem because you're in, your fruit's not in. You can walk out to your fruit. Oh, yeah. So I would say you can redeem it because the fruit's miles away. Exactly for this point. By the way, just to say the idea behind these hypothetical cases is that I actually heard a fascinating case today. Is that so much practical halacha comes as a result of these hypothetical cases. So although when you learn them, it sounds like it's ludicrous. Yeah, far-fetched, yeah. Although when you learn them, it sounds far-fetched, but it does become, because the more cases you come across, the more relevant these hypothetical cases become.
And you're testing the limits of the law.
Exactly. So you're brainstorming and seeing how far does this concept stretch, and to what scenarios can we apply this to? And in the moment it becomes a practical discussion, that's when suddenly the hypothetical cases come in. I'll give you an example. Go on.
I was just on this case.
No. So obviously in our case, we're not farmers bringing fruits into Yerushalayim. So for us, it's a lot harder to apply it because it's not so practical for us. No. So first of all, we'll hopefully know what to do in the time to come. And second of all, I wonder if there's application in other ways. It's harder. You're learning Gemara. The Gemara is like when you're learning Gemara Sukkah, for example, and then you have to design your own Sukkah outside. It becomes intriguing because now you're trying to design your own Sukkah, and then everything you've learned about is coming up. The type of walls you use, the type of schach you use, metal, wood, strings. Suddenly, all the hypothetical cases you learned about come into action when you have to build that Sukkah, right? Or the matzah. But in the case of bikurim and fruits, it's a bit harder because we're not there. We don't have these halachot on a day-to-day basis. I'll give you just an example of a law that hypothetical. I consulted a dayan today with a child that I received from someone in our community, where his business was billed from city of Joburg late for electricity. I think electricity billed very, very late. He knew it's coming, but he didn't ask for a bill. So it accumulated, and the bill has come to a very large amount of money. They expected it. I think they budgeted for it. So it is what it is. Now, the city of Joburg agent or municipality representative says to him, "My child needs a laptop. If you can assist my child with a laptop, I'll be able to assist you in your large bill that's coming your way from city of Joburg." We're talking about hundreds of thousands of rands in exchange for what, a 6,000 rand laptop. So he feels.
Do you even want to consult
to ask me? Yeah. He says he runs his business on policy that it doesn't bribe.
Right.
But the reason why he's consulting, he came to tell me that morally and ethically he feels uncomfortable with this. He's not comfortable. He just wants to know what halacha says. In this case, he didn't go to the agent and say, "Here's a tip. Can you solve my problem?" The agent came to him and said, "All I need is a laptop for my child, and I'll solve your problem."
That's why the country's in trouble.
So I'll tell you about that in a second, right? So he's asking the question. He says, I don't normally go and offer bribes, but here this opportunity came my way. What does halacha say about it?
You're still going to pay the money. It's just that someone's there.
It's going to be less.
No, it's going to be less. Yeah. Less. A few hundred thousand rand discount.
It's be less.
300,000 rand discount. So I consulted a Dayan today. I just want to know if he's come across this in halacha. He actually quoted the Stei Chemed, and the Stei Chemed writes. Again, these are all hypothetical cases, but it was for real. It was amazing. Like he remembered a case that he once learned. It's called shochad. Shochad is bribery, and it applies to this case like it would to any other case. Shochad is against the Torah, right? The Stei Chemed has a question about incentivizing. I always call it, what do you call when you have to offer your product?
Yeah.
Offer your product, and various businesses have a chance to tender. So what happens if you offer a gift with the hope that you'll get the tender? Right, that is bribery. I don't know what legally it says about such a case, because I don't know if you can be held guilty for legally for that. How you can be for giving a gift to accept your tender is fraud.
Yeah.
It's a criminal fraud.
It's
Yeah. So anyway, the Stei Chemed said that's shochad. So he told me an interesting debate. If I remember the details correctly, they were comparing civil law to Torah law. Who's guilty of shochad? Who's guilty? Who gets the punishment for bribery? The judge who receives the bribe, or the litigant who gives the bribe. So in Torah law, if I'm not mistaken, the litigant is the one that gets punished, not the judge who receives it. And that's the question. Why is it in Torah that the judge who receives it is not punished, but the one who bribes is? And he was telling me, I can't remember the source, the debate between two sages or two academics as to who's a better off legal system. When the non-Jewish sage says we're better, because in our text, both the judge and the briber would get punished. But in your text, in Torah text, it's only the briber, the one who bribes, and not the judge. What's the response? The response from the Talmudic sage was, no, we're better off. Because if the judge gets punished too, they're not going to expose one over the other, because they're both in it together, right? The judge and the individual are going to get punished. That means they're both in it together, and they can't tell on one another because they're both going to be in a case of punishment. But in the Torah law, the judge is not fined, right? Only the one who gives the bribe is fined, not the one who receives the bribe is fined. And then now you got a case where we actually need him to telltale, and he must tell the officials that I gave a bribe to the judge and he received the bribe. So in other words, it's our job now to go tell on him. In other words, if they were both getting punished, then they would back each other up. You don't tell and I won't tell, and we'll be safe. But if one's not getting punished and one is getting punished, it's my job to go tell on the one who's not getting punished. And anyway, it's interesting. So the Dayan said to me, not only should you tell the person who asked the question not to do it, but he should actually call the officials and report it in. Okay, that I'm not sure if that's lifnim mishurata din. That's beyond the code of.
I should ask for the laptop. You should ask him more.
But it is. It's ruining society. That's what.
Well, I'll give it.
But that's what ruins society. Absolutely. The moment that you offer this, what's left. Anyway, so I got into that because here was a Dayan who had learned this as a hypothetical case. But the moment I came to ask, I wanted a halachic source for it, he told me off by, like he remembered straight away the case that he had learned. So that was interesting. Okay, let's we do one more paragraph. Yeah. Well,
And you can't say anything.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you should have it just that Instagram with the guy who got stopped and they asked him for a ride. That's when the woman said, he only offered the chief of police 200 rand and he had 3,500 in his wallet. How disgusting that he didn't offer more. And that's it.
Boira Papa. This is the second last paragraph. Boira Papa says, Nakit lei bekanya mai. He takes it on a stick, but it's still outside. Okay, so you see the question. Yeah, well, this is slightly different because now it's not on his shoulder. It's similar to the cart.
But he's holding.
In other words, the question we had beforehand was that he had a load on his shoulder. That was the question till now, like the bicycle. Till now, the question was that the fruit was on his shoulder. So therefore, he was in, but the fruit was out. Or the fruit was in and he was out. That's a case where he's carrying it on his back. What happens if he's got a stick? It's almost like what's the poor man's
Stick with the bag.
a stick on a bag on it, yeah. A halachmania, right? Carrying on it, the turbula, carrying the stick and the load. So now the question is that stick considered an extension of himself, or is it not? Since it's not on his shoulder, then it's not considered.
Since that's unresolved.
So the Gemara, we haven't had one of these in a while. The Gemara says teiku. So the stick bekanya, the stick is. Let me tell you about this teiku in a moment. Teiku is a terminology we see from time to time in the Gemara. When the Gemara doesn't have an answer as to whether the stick is considered an extension of himself or not, we say teiku, which means we'll find out when Mashiach comes.
Isn't it a cop-out?
It's recognizing the fact that we don't have all answers.
It shouldn't make a difference what he carries it.
No, but the question is, if it's on his shoulder, then it becomes you.
Yeah.
It's an extension of yourself, and that we sort of understood.
Isn't the stick an extension of
Well, that's the question. So now the stick's an extension. Is a stick extension of yourself? If you're not carrying it on your body.
You asked the question about shuts, and I came up with the
Agrov.
they have the cheese, and he's on a stick and carry the stick. It's a stick.
Is that considered carrying? You're saying? Yeah, you're carrying the stick exactly. You're carrying the stick. There's actually interesting halakha about carrying. It's, again, not relevant to us because we have an Eruv. But if there's a particular shear measurement that you can't carry, I can't remember offhand how much it is. Excuse me. It's an interesting halakha. If your item you're carrying is smaller than that particular shear, the particular measurement, maybe it's a bait size, egg size, I can't remember offhand. It's too small. Even the container in which you're carrying it, right, is not considered carrying. Ties into maybe the stick holding the bag. Why? Because it's quite a novel law. Because the role of the box is for the item. That's why you're carrying the box, for the item. And because the item is not within the shear, the measurement of carrying, therefore you're not chayev. You're not chayev. I wouldn't say we do it like a we don't initially tell them you could do it. But you're not chayev. You're not liable or guilty for the box. Because the box carries the responsibility for the item. And the item is smaller than the measurement. That's a law about Hilchos Shabbos. But we actually apply that law to ourselves. And that is the role of the body, the guf and the neshama. What do you see in this scenario? The whole entire purpose of the box is for the sake of the item inside. And if the item inside is too small, then you're not liable for the box either. It's a mashal, it's a parable for our bodies. That our bodies have to be vessels for our neshama. just like the box is a vessel for the item, so too our bodies have to be an item, a vessel for the neshama. If the body is not a vessel for the neshama, meaning it's an entity of its own and it's not conforming or supporting the neshama, we know something's wrong. We tie that into the laws of Shabbos. Okay, this answer about the stick is teiku. Let me just touch upon it for a second. Teiku is a acronym for 4 words, right? Tishbi, Yetare. Tishbi is a terminology for Eliyahu Navi. Eliyahu Tishbi. Tishbi Yetaretz. That's a yud. Yetaretz will answer. Kushiyot, V'ibayot. 2 types of different questions. Tishbi, the Eliyahu Navi will answer Kushiyot V'ibayot. So any questions we may have, like this one about the stick, Eliyahu Navi will answer in due course. Which means that when it comes to I wonder if we can apply this to sport in some way. When it comes to it's not really, because if you take a cricket bat and your bat is behind the line, you're okay. Which means in sport we see your bicycle and the cricket bat to be equal. Exactly. In cricket, the bat's an extension of your body. Here, we're not sure if the stick is an extension of your body or not. Now, just the spoil sports. Okay. Okay. Well, as you can see, the piece about Ma'aser Sheni continues for a while. We are getting closer to the next Mishnah, which would be nice to change topic a little bit, but stay with us. Please go. We'll get there. Too far away. Okay.
We still haven't had a party for